Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and if you see this page, you know the deal. We are ranking all 18 available Transcended characters from the free Transcended Selector that was given to us from the login event that just started yesterday. So what we're going to be doing is ranking from worst to best and discussing any other value that these characters might have. The only thing that we're not going to be doing that we do on the other ranking tier lists is changing what these different categories and tiers mean, because it just doesn't matter this time around. You know that S is the best and D is the worst. It's more about the details for these characters. So without further ado, and again, you can find the Transcended Selector in your gift tab, and it's got a 7-day expiry, so you do have some time to think over and mull over your opinions and your advantages, disadvantages. We're going to start off with Red Guardian. I'm starting off with him. Great example of a bad character that's not really going to help your roster as a DPS or as a leadership or as a support, but has some external value. Big if here, if you purchase the Black Widow Legendary Battle for 2,500 crystals, you will see on the extreme rewards that if you have his potential awakened, which of course transcending him will give you the potential, then you automatically get this item. So basically you can get him transcended, which you can then use for story mode, fragment farming, and whatever, but also get that Mega 6 potential ticket. Now what that does is it saves you 2,400 bios, 10 million gold, and thousands of black antimatter or chaos Nornstones. That may be worth it, and that may be worth it for you, but I don't think he should be your first pick if you are missing the majority of characters on this list. However, if he's one of your only picks, he's definitely a lot better overall in value at this point than Red Skull. He's also better in value at this point than War Tiger or Amadeus Cho, or in last place Elsa, because Elsa is by far the worst of all of these Transcendent characters. So this is really where the bottom of the barrel ranks out. Like, sure, there's some small reason to use these characters, like, oh, story mode fragment farming this month, or a leadership, or, you know, like sort of okay in PvP sometimes. But no, let's be real here. These characters are really scraping the bottom of the barrel when it comes to usage and when it comes to value. And really, Red Guardian stands apart because of that specific ticket, but only if you bought the Legendary Battle. So from the C tier and up, you are looking at better characters overall. Bullseye was a lot better before the last few months, because with the introduction of so many more speed villains, his weaknesses and his just subpar damage have been exposed, and he's one of the only characters at the Transcended tier 3 level with no healing. Spider-Gwen is basically just a better version of him, so at this point in time I would just choose her. She's more proc friendly, she has healing, she has, just better overall, I would say, than Bullseye. But then again, Green Goblin makes them both look like garbage, so just keep that in mind as well. I'm just ranking them and comparing them to each other, not to the overall, all characters, the overall list of characters in MFF. Then you have Jewel, Jessica Jones. Really only works in PvP with a full Defenders team, which is Luke Cage and Daredevil, with full investment. I'm talking mighty CTPs and up, with at least 4 Heal Odin's Blessings on them, and even then they're falling behind. I put Iron Fist just a little bit ahead of Jewel because he's a DPS unit and he has a self-buffing lead, which you can also use for Daredevil, Luke Cage, and Jessica Jones because it's a Defender's lead. But yeah, he's pretty meh. I put Shadow Shell a little bit ahead of him because even though she's worse than Iron Fist, she is an elemental damage character, and that is very important for the story mode fragment farming. So I do want to quickly point out that you may be choosing your Transcended character based on how many of these missions they are available for. In this case, you can see there she's available for both 11-1 this month and 11-2. And with still 20 days left on this timer, or 19 days as of making this video, you may want to just choose her to get, 19 days worth of 2 fragments, if you have the other characters. And then last but not least, in the C tier, we have Medusa. By far the best DPS unit here, also a good leadership for Universals, also the only support for Inhumans. So she actually has a lot going for her, but she still falls well behind the DPS check of the characters in the S, A, and B class, so that's why she can't really climb much higher. Moving on to the B tier, these are characters that are better standalone and with investment are going to definitely do a lot more for your roster. Again, we discussed Luke Cage, but he's the only real member of the team that can function outside of the team for PvP because of his Reflect, right? His Reflect is passive, it's very, very good, and it can lock down speed type physical damage characters like Spider-Man quite well. So that's always going to be the case for him, even if Daredevil and Jessica Jones are not around. Heimdall is actually quite underrated as a universal PvP character, but he needs his artifact, preferably 4-star or higher. So, you know, his value can definitely range a bit wildly. I would say no artifact, he's probably C tier. Well, I'd still say he's like low B tier without his artifact. With his artifact, he can honestly be somewhere in A tier. So it does vary there, but just keep that in mind for building him for PvP. And he's not bad for PvE. He's proc friendly and stuff. And then we have Moon Knight. Now, I'm putting Moon Knight here in B tier, but I want to give you a really crisp disclaimer. The Moon Knight Disney Plus show has ended, which means we are now on the clock. In the next month, in the next 2 months, in the next 2.5 months, we should be seeing a Moon Knight Disney Plus update or mid-month update. At the very least, it's going to give us a brand new uniform for Moon Knight, possibly 2 with a synergy like they did for Loki. So with that being said and knowing that knowledge, you could transcend him now and wait. You also did the same thing, and I also gave you guys the same advice for Dr. Octopus, and it almost came back to bite me in the ass. So be careful choosing this. I cannot guarantee, no one can guarantee that Disney Plus is going to do a Moon Knight update for MFF. Maybe they won't. There is always a chance. There's a very small chance of that, but there is always a chance. So you are taking a bit of a risk, but thankfully, unlike Dr. Octopus before he got his uniform with the Superior Octopus uniform, the new, or the most current version of Moon Knight, which actually looks a lot like Stephen Grant's Mr. Knight, is actually still quite good. So you still have a solid character, but keep in mind, be aware that, you know, we're not going to get the update tomorrow or next week. So, you know, choosing Moon Knight and then whinging on the forums until the cows come home that you don't have your Moon Knight update is kind of a silly way to pick him. And I would just caution against that just for everyone's sanity. And then we can move on to the A and S tier. And here I'm going to be placing both Human Torch and Silk, which obviously leaves no surprise that then Sif and Dr. Octopus are going to be in the S tier. So I'll then go ahead and explain why they're here. So in Silk's case, she's a very good DPS unit, but she absolutely must have her uniform. So like Heimdall, but more exaggerated, without her uniform, she's down here in D tier. She is by far the worst Transcended character, even worse than Elsa, because she has no leadership. So let me make that very clear. If you don't have Silk's uniform, don't even bother, unless she's the only one left, right? Don't waste the Selector on biometrics. But if you do have her uniform, or if you plan on buying it in August when it goes back on sale, it'll be for real money, by the way. It's not going to be for crystals. But with that, she's very, very good. She's probably as good, possibly slightly better DPS unit than Human Torch. The only reason why I put Human Torch ahead of her is because he has the fire resist leadership versus Mephisto. He has extra support buffs, with Thing being a really good support for him, and then he can take advantage of other buffs as well, elemental buffs, etc. And he's also very, very easy to play, and his uniform is always available when it's on sale, right? It's not like you have to wait once a year for the shooting star to appear type of situation. And that's really what describes why he's at the top of A tier. He could maybe be S tier, but let's just keep it, you know, let's keep it here. This sort of makes more sense. This is sort of more well-balanced. And essentially, for Human Torch, he's also really fast for story mode fragment farming. So I think just overall, he's a solid unit. He's honestly not bad for ABX. He's got a lot going for him. Then we come to S tier. Sif is by far the best, although there are some others. She's by far the best support type here, and one of the best support types in the game. All allies get a buff to boss type damage for PvE, all speed, really nice stuff. On top of that, she has a leadership for combat types, which gives them attack, physical attack, and HP, which is really good offense, defense. And then on top of that, she's a pretty solid DPS unit, right? Slap a CTP of Rage on her and she pops off. She's sort of proc friendly, really, really flexible character. Again, she may be getting a uniform. It's less likely than Moon Knight. I'd say Moon Knight's like 95% chance to get a uniform. Sif for Thor Love and Thunder is probably like a 50-50, maybe a 60-40 chance of getting a uniform. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend buying or using the Transcended Selector on her and then rushing out to buy her uniform. But, you know, if you don't think she's going to get the uniform, or if you don't care, you're still going to get a couple of months of value out of it, definitely choose her. In Dr. Octopus's case, he's just one of the best combat male villains, well, I guess just combat villains that we have in Marvel Future Fight, and he's good enough to almost compete in ABX, you could say, with Kingpin and Cull Obsidian and Apocalypse. So I think that's absolutely worth something, on top of the fact that he's very proc friendly, easy to play, has a heal now, has had a heal for a while, and is, you know, pretty fun to play, I would say. Love the tentacles, and he's a little bit underrated, I'd say, for content where he does well. like PvE, like World Boss Legend, stuff like that. Just because in general combat types struggle, so he tends to get lumped in with them. But I honestly think he punches a bit above his weight, given that he's compared to either, you know, paywall characters or paywall uniforms or native tier 2s. So yeah, with that being said, that is the ranking for the Transcended Selector. Hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think, who you chose, and why. Thank you so much for watching. Smash the like button, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.